Yep, I got it, Mandy. And
Okay,
let
well,
me
Evan
try.
and I got you.
I
So,
I think there must be a capacity limit after you've been on for 7 hours. The recording takes a lot of space. Okay. Are you seeing my screen?
We are.
yeah.
Okay. Um, I think we can just kind of flash these up. An executive action on unleashing American energy. Um, this does basically reinvigorate from the executive order kind of the idea of energy exploration on the outer continental shelf, and also the opportunity for rare earth minerals to be economically, I don't know, what do you want to say, harvested or gathered from the lands out in the ocean. So this one relates to some of the recent mapping of rare earth minerals, some of which may be present out in the south western corner of our territorial sea and out into the abyssal plain. This is a USGS map that shows the presence of some of those, and there's some active geological areas that I think could be creating those. The other one is basically ocean policy related, protecting American energy from state overreach. This is designed to think about ensuring that states don't hinder federal economic opportunity, and that this one may be very challenging, especially as it could relate to federal consistency. So just knowing that these are out there. And then there is an announcement that the new OCS oil and gas leasing program is scheduled to be initiated. These are usually very long processes. They can take up to several years, if not more. But they produce a 5-year program from which leases for activities out on the outer continental shelf happen. We already mentioned earlier today the fact Oregon does have kind of statutory policies on the books that would keep oil and gas from coming to shore in the state, but that does not necessarily prevent activities out on the outer continental shelf that don't connect back to the state. And I think that's a very short summary of those. Tara or Susan, anything else you wanted to add?
No, just that the oil and gas, this time it said, it's looking at all 27 areas, even though Washington and Oregon had been protected by moratoria in the past or something. But however, that is different than bringing it to shore. But yeah, they're looking at all 27 areas around the country. So. Yep. Okay.
And then this took us directly to officer elections. I'm not sure if you were planning to go there yet.
No, let's see. Well,
I'm going to stop the share.
yeah. As long as you had it up there, why don't we do officer elections and then go back and talk about when we do meeting scheduling and wrap up, we can talk about what OPAC wants to do as part of anything relating to what we discussed at all today.
Okay.
So on to elections, unless there's any questions about the EOs. Nope. Okay. Elections.
Yeah, just a note that I think in some of this and some of the implementation now they are reducing, review times of oil and gas projects and mineral extraction projects down to 28 days, like 14 or 28 days from things that would normally take a year. So how that impacts NEPA, other analysis, things like that, yet to be seen. But that is one of the directions now, is that they will complete review of those within a month.
Good point. So Andy, did you have a slide on the elections from what people emailed you about?
I don't have a slide from the
Okay.
email, but if Eva can put, she's been helping to gather all of the nominations that we've had. So if she can drop that into the chat, that will
Perfect.
summarize where we are, and I can cover that.
Okay.
Getting the formatting to look all right.
I can start out while Eva is formatting. So the nominees had some general themes, one of which is that the leadership of OPAC has a lot of confidence. And so Susan and Tara, you were both nominated to continue in your roles or to switch the chair and vice chair if you so choose. But there was a lot of confidence in your continued leadership. And then there were three separate nominations for individuals to join as at-large members of the executive committee. And that includes Amelia O'Connor, Joe Liebezeit, and Margaret. And Joe was the only one who submitted interest in serving in that at-large role, and I have not confirmed interest from either Amelia or from Margaret. So that is where we are. And then I think we can, in the past, if it made sense, we can do all of these in one motion, or if you want to do individual motions per officer position, we can also take that approach as well. If you'd like, I can leave this slide up. It's harder for me to see everyone, but
I would, maybe we just start, or if they want to privately, Margaret or Amelia, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but their interest in serving, they've been nominated. So at least confirm that first
Yep.
before we move forward.
This is Margaret. I think I have messaged you, Andy, about. I just do not feel comfortable at this time committing to an executive position at OPAC. You know, I'm already on the Mono Watershed Council. I'm the board president. I have a full-time job. I just think that between my other obligations, this would be a real stretch for me. Not to say that I wouldn't be willing, but just that it might be very difficult.
yeah, thank you, Margaret. Understood.
Hey, Andy. Jamie did contact me. I definitely have less experience on the board than everybody else, but I am willing if the council does want me in that position. Thank you.
Great. And just I wanted to double check with Tara. I'm definitely interested in serving either as chair or vice chair. Tara's filled in for me a couple times when I couldn't be there, and she's been awesome. So I have full confidence in Tara and Joe and Amelia for whoever we choose for the positions as, you know, chair, vice chair, and executive committee
At large.
Yes. So I assume Tara is still interested in serving, but I will let her speak to that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to continue serving since we were nominated so many times over Susan. I will just say it's been wonderful working on the executive committee with Susan and Jamie. Andy everyone is really great to work with. So I just really appreciate that. No matter, even if we don't agree, we always like have a very respectful relationship, and it's been wonderful. So I would just
I agree.
put that out there as like anybody who is interested in the future. You know, it's a great experience and we've had a good working experience.
We have. I agree.
Joe.
Joe, yeah.
Yeah, I expressed interest in being in the at-large role or vice chair role, but I'm also interested in the chair. I just don't know the time commitment. I think that's probably the busiest position. So if you can give a breakdown roughly on like the hours or time difference between the chair and the other positions, that would be really nice to know. It could help me decide if I want to go for, want to be eligible for chair.
Yeah, I guess and that's kind of tough for me because some of what I do overlaps with other, my day job and other work. But basically it, reviewing agendas, reviewing letters, talking with other OPAC members, things like that. I don't know how to put a time on it, really. I don't know,
I-
Terry, do you have any idea on?
I think, you know, when we meet as an executive committee, we're all together, so that time is the same, no matter the position.
Yeah,
I think the biggest difference is that the chair tends to run the meetings and that's just, you know, you have to be prepared to run a whole 8-hour meeting or however long we've been here. So, that I think is the biggest time commitment. Behind the scenes, we tend to, I think, try to split up tasks as best we can together. And we review the agenda and submit agenda items all together. Karina's a wonderful resource. Like we just, you know, it's been, again, I wouldn't say it's no work, but it's, we do try to divvy up
Yeah.
what we can together.
Well, with that information, I'd be up for any role on the executive committee then.
okay. So Andy, where do we go from here? Do we need a motion from somebody?
I think that's where we start, Susan, and maybe
Okay.
we should do it one at a time and identify nominees and then move forward in that way.
Okay. Jamie,
I would like to nominate Susan Chambers for chair.
okay,
One at a time, is that what we're doing?
yeah.
And then I think we need a second, unless there's somebody else who wants to nominate a
This is
different
Richard.
chair.
This is Richard. I'll second that.
Okay, Richard seconds that nominee.
And do we need to do this by consensus or vote for?
We
Yes.
can do this by consensus. You know, Steve, there's nothing that says we have to do a vote on this, correct?
Just so we have to vote, it can be done in our normal manner, which is by consensus.
Okay. Okay, so given,
Excuse me, Susan, can I ask a question?
yeah.
Consensus or majority? We don't really do consensus, do we?
We do.
But we're not required to do consensus, right?
That's correct. If we solicit a consensus motion and it doesn't pass, then we will have a vote.
Thank you.
And that's fair. Okay, so is there a consensus or is there not a consensus and we need a vote, or leaving it up to OPAC members?
Yeah, so let's do all in favor, say aye. And if there's any nays, then we'll know.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All those not in favor? Thank you, Margaret, for the chat. Okay, not in favor. Was there anybody? I was speaking, so.
I did not see anybody or see any chat. So I believe that is consensus
Okay,
for Susan Chambers as chair.
okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Kind of unexpected, but happy to serve and always happy to listen to what what OPAC would like to see, so. You shout anytime. Next, motion for vice chair.
Jamie, is your hand raised for the next motion? Okay.
It is. And I would like to nominate Tara Brock for vice chair.
Can I second
I
that?
will second that as well.
Oh, okay. Richard, seconds. Okay, any discussion? Okay, by consensus, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Congratulations and welcome back, Tara.
Looking forward to continuing to work with you, Susan. I don't think either of us were expecting this, frankly, but we are happy to continue serving at the council's, yeah, we serve all the rest of the council, so happy to keep doing it.
Okay, and Jamie has his hand up again. Go, Jamie.
Well, as I wrote to Eva and Andy, I would like to nominate Amelia as at large.
Okay, second? Did I miss a second?
I'll second Amelia.
Tara seconds.
Okay. Okay, so we have Amelia for the at-large position, motion by Jamie, seconded by Tara. All those in favor? Say aye.
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 All those not in favor, say nay. Any nays?
I'll say nay. I love Amelia. I worked with her for years, but I don't know if I'll be on OPAC again after the next 2 years. And I feel like I kind of paid my dues for 2 years and have a lot of experience in this field. So I'll just put that out there.
Can we do an alternate on the executive committee, Andy or Steve, if Amelia for some reason can't make an executive committee meeting?
We're allowed to have additional officers beyond the chair. The chair is the only one that's statutorily required. So we have a vice chair, but we can have additional officers as we deem necessary, according to our procedures.
So a
Thanks, Steve.
second at-large member on the executive committee?
I was going to suggest that we add another.
Generally, you like to have an odd number, but if you're all getting along, go ahead.
Okay. So it's within our purview to do a second at-large member. I guess, do we need to vote first on adding a second at-large member and then vote on who that member is?
Well, we have a process motion in play. So I think that we need to officially finish that before we take up something else. Is that correct, Steve? Yeah.
Oh, wait,
Andy?
okay.
Yes, Amelia?
Sorry, given my lack of experience on the council versus Joe, I maybe should be the second. And I don't know if it makes a difference, but just throwing that out there since he's been on this a lot longer than I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Amelia. Okay, so where do we go from here?
I think Jamie would need to rescind the motion originally, and that would table that proposal. And if you want to add a second at-large member, then you would have a motion to do that. I guess I'm seeing Steve nod his head. Yes, that's maybe the most logical way to do it. Okay.
Okay.
So you want me to move to have 2 at large?
I think you
Or
would
take
need
my
to say
motion off the
you
table.
need to take your
Okay.
motion off the table and make a new motion, and you could do both at-large nominees at the same time in this next motion.
Okay, all right, very good. I remove my former motion of Amelia O'Connor and add 2 seats at large to the executive committee with Amelia and Joe.
Okay. That sounds good to me.
I'll
I think that
second
does
that.
it. Steve, that was good from your perspective?
Yeah, but we need the current vice chair to
Oh,
take her second
take
off
this. Yeah, okay,
from the original motion, and then we can have a second on this motion.
got
Okay.
it.
I remove my second and second this motion.
Okay.
Robert's rules, got to keep them straight.
Yep. Yep. And thank you to Steve and Andy and Tara, because you guys are much better at Robert's rules than I am. Okay, so we have a motion from Jamie for 2 positions, 2 at-large positions on the executive committee, Amelia O'Connor and Joe Labazite. Thank you. And seconded by Tara. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All in favor? Say
Aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Woohoo! We have our chair, vice chair, and executive committee for the next 2 years. Thank you very much. Appreciate your confidence. And thank you for keeping OPAC working smoothly.
Yes,
Looking
thank you.
forward to working with all 4 of our executive committee members and our other executive committee members who are also there but not elected. Tara.
I think an order of business for our executive committee might be discussing election procedure and how we do this in the future, because it felt like people were surprised, or, I would just like in the future, maybe we could outline better, not just a better nominating procedure, so that not everyone's caught off guard, and that there's a better understanding of who's been nominated for what positions before we come to the meeting, because clearly there was some confusion. And so I just think that maybe we could think about that for our operating procedures at some point.
But
And
in the
that
meeting
was-
summary, it's going to look like we did it really smoothly.
In general, I think we punched our way through it smoothly. But that was also something Andy and I were talking about. And Tara, in October, when we have new members, maybe doing a review of, policies and procedures for OPAC, and that can certainly be one of the items to include.
Steve, does this council have the opportunity to do an executive session? Because there may be value in doing training on OPAC more broadly and generally that, might not be of specific interest to the public. So it is, in terms of just administrative support roles, needs, or is that something we would want to have be public and nobody would attend because it's so boring?
Yeah, it most likely wouldn't be executive session, because I don't think there's a basis under the public meeting law to go into an executive session for that. We can maybe think about that a little bit, but we could have like a training prior to an OPAC meeting that the public didn't have to be at, because we wouldn't be deliberating or gathering information towards any of our decisions. So we could, precede a OPAC meeting with some training if we wanted to do that.
Okay.
Perfect. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Andy.
It didn't want to come unmuted, but I was thinking too, I had made that 1-pager for new OPAC members and so forth too, and maybe get some materials prior to the training that everybody can kind of look over, Andy, and so forth. And make sure that 1-pager is as up to date as possible.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we may have up to 4 new members by the time we have a meeting in October. So this would be an opportune time to kind of just level set and provide a basic training. Yep.
Okay.
So.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I think we can wrap up elections, and the last thing on our agenda is recap meeting scheduling and wrap up, but we did talk about a lot today. And there was a lot of interest in communicating some information to the governor's office about funding. We have a letter that the executive committee is considering right now from our last meeting to send to the governor. We might have some thoughts about adding to that. There was also, I just totally lost my train of thought. Some interest in communicating to the governor some of the concerns that we heard from our panel of agency experts regarding agency and education experts, institutions regarding federal funding. There was something else. So let's open up the discussion on that and see where we want to go. Tara, you had suggested adding some funding information to our current letter. Can we do that since it was a letter from last meeting? I guess, Andy, I'm looking at you.
I think you would want the council to have a motion at this meeting that would add content to the letter previously approved by the council.
Okay.
That would include X, Y, or Z. And
Okay.
however you choose to do that.
Okay, that sounds good. Jamie.
What were you referring to in the addition to the letter?
So the December 11th meeting of the council authorized the executive committee to write a letter to the governor's office, and I believe CCing ODF&W on support for agency capacity for ocean management.
Yeah, I have that letter in front of me.
And I guess I'll look at Tara. We were talking earlier on my agenda.
You have a draft of the letter, Jamie. It has not been
Right.
finalized.
Right. But for Tara, you'd mentioned it, adding something to that letter from one of the earlier agenda items today.
Could you project that if anybody has access to it handy?
I can't remember which item this
Yeah.
morning. Let me look back up the agenda, but I think it was just more generally around both the Rocky habitat, that's already in there, and the ocean change
Council.
well, it's the OAH council positions are not currently in the letter. And
That's what it was.
I think also anything around the Ocean Science Trust and the, continued funding and helping funding and support for that. I think those were the ones that we flagged as potentially like just wanting to add support in that letter for continue to fund those efforts.
Right. Okay, yeah, I think that's what it was. Jamie.
Yeah, well, I would certainly support that. We've got the letter mostly drafted. A few more lines would help. Then let's do it.
Okay. Do we want, so a question to you all, do we want to add the OAH and the things that Tara just mentioned to that letter? And do we want to do something separate about the federal funding from the panel? Do we want to do a separate letter regarding that or add that in as well, which means the letter might get really long?
I would make it 2 letters.
Okay.
Just because they will be significantly different.
Okay. So Tara, can you put in the chat which agenda items specifically we could add to the letter? and I should have been taking notes. The OAH Council, OOST.
Yep. I think there's 2 positions potentially they mentioned that were cut, slated for cutting right now. And then the, I think OOST, and just like highlighting the need to fund that work as well.
Okay. So, Andy, I'm guessing we need a motion to add those to the letter.
Yes.
Okay. So I need a motion that says something to that effect.
Jamie, your hand is up. Is that the old hand or yeah? Okay.
Old hand.
Well, I can try. I move that we add to the letter approved in December 2024, at the December 2024 meeting, support for funding of the OAH Council and OOST. We can spell those out as needed. Does that suffice?
Okay, I tried to type while you were talking. What I put in the chat, is that your motion? Or I mean,
Yeah.
the wording, okay.
To be clear to everyone, currently it includes marine reserves and rocky habitat funding and some language around the need for offshore wind and undersea cable implementation, but so we just didn't specifically call out these 2 items.
Right.
Or these 2 programs.
Okay, so Tara made a motion to add to the letter approved in December 2024, support for funding of the OAH Council and OOST. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Was that Fran?
That was
Yep.
Fran.
There
Thank
you
you.
go. Okay, cool. Seconded by Fran. Okay.
Did you see discussion? Did you see Chris Wall's chat?
I did see Chris's chat, so we
Okay.
would remove her name from the OPAC list of names.
Yeah. Okay, so by consensus, thumbs up, say aye.
Aye.
Good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, awesome. We can work on that. So second, around the panel discussion we had, do we want to, I don't know, there's some ideas that, we could send a second letter to the governor related specifically to the federal funding concerns that we heard about today. And I was wondering if if OPAC could even do a press release about it, and maybe have that section of our meeting as a standalone video, because I think a lot of people would find that compelling. But I don't know, one, if we can do that, if we have the time to do that, or if there's interest in doing that. So those were just some of the ideas that I was thinking in my head. Letter and or press release and information. What do you guys think? Joe?
I like that idea, but I'm still like, what is our ask specifically to the governor to do? Is it like, I think we need to clarify that exactly. Like, is it to get the governor to reach out to federal delegation in Oregon, or like, yeah, I just want to understand where we want this to go.
I think that could be a component of it. Jamie?
I presume the governor gets in touch with these organizations that we just heard from, but are we the main conduit for that? If we are the main conduit, then it should come from us. And I put something in the chat, just basically to produce a letter to the governor characterizing federal cuts to those organizations or agencies.
I think at least some of those programs, yeah, 'cause I see Karina's hand up. I know Sea Grant and others have certainly been meeting with the governor's office, but I don't know the extent to which all of this has been communicated. And I'm not sure if we're the right body, but
Right.
there was certainly information in there that I was not aware of at all. And that was really helpful. It's like we've all probably heard different snippets, but I think it would be important to get that out there more broadly. And again, just reinforcing that need then for state funding to start filling some of those gaps, which we're not
Exactly.
in a great budget year ourselves, but you know,
Right.
I think that just that, again, bringing more focus to the need for ocean programming and ocean management, and why it's so important. The slide that Laura put up, on, you know, the Oregon coastal economy and what it brings to the state, just reinforcing those things and why it's so important to fund all the programs that help manage all of that. So
Yep.
Karina, sorry, I jumped in front of you.
No, it's true. I mean, tourism, fishing are two of the highest, contributors to that coastal economic impact and to the state. Tourism drives a lot and drives a lot of the need for these, whether it's safety, whether that's the management program, coastal management program, et cetera. I think, you know, some of these agencies have a direct relationship with the governor's office because they're executive branch agencies, which Lisa, I'm sure will explain more detail. I'm thinking ODF&W, I'm thinking, DLCD, under which OCMP falls. We are not, we don't communicate regularly. We have been communicating a lot with our federal delegates to let them know, you know, like they want to know, when are there cuts, you know, are you being cut? What are you getting? What are you hearing? You know, and we continually try to, you know, keep them up to speed, usually through Oregon State University's government relations. But I still think there's value in having the governor have awareness of the magnitude of the impact to prepare the state to consider what they might do, right? I'm not sure we're the ones to recommend exactly what to do, but I think characterizing it and what its consequences might be is worth, the governor should know. That's what I would offer.
Okay. Thank you, Karina. I thought I saw Lisa's hand up. Lisa?
I jumped again. I always forget to take it down, so I was taking it down. And
all good.
Apparently too soon. I agree with what Karina said. The state agencies are in contact with the governor's office, or at least I know that ours is. We are also in contact with our congressional delegation. I think that a letter, much to what Karina said, talking about the values that these programs bring to the state makes sense. I just want to make sure that you all don't overstep and find yourselves in a position that you didn't really intend to be in.
Right.
So if there's anything that we can do to kind of help with the message once it's created and maybe have some eyes on it, that would, I'm sure we would all be happy to do that. I also think that there's power in numbers too. So there's the collective, and that's very important, especially to the governor's office. But then to the federal delegation, I think that numbers are what they're looking at. And so as individuals, if you have deep feelings about this, I would encourage you as individuals to use those links that were provided in the chat and in your notes when they go out. So yeah, I just want to protect you all a little bit. So
we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Lisa. Jamie.
Lisa, I totally agree with that. We represent all sorts of different communities along the coast and statewide that we need to bring this message to them in any way we can. But I would like the governor to know that this group, along with their communities, is being traumatized. I was traumatized today. This was hard for me. The whole thing has been hard for everybody. And so she needs to know that her advisory council is suffering because her agencies are suffering. And we need to just make it be known. And I agree that we need to put some ice with it.
Okay. Other comments or thoughts?
I was just gonna say, I think I like the way Jamie put it is good, that we would produce a letter characterizing the federal cuts in a way that frames this up more broadly for what this means for our coastal communities and coastal management writ large. So I think that was a good way to put it. So Jamie, did you officially make that motion? Because I'll second it.
Sure.
Okay, I will second Jamie's motion to produce a letter to the governor characterizing federal cuts to the agencies that presented, and I might put a slight asterisk that we might go beyond the agencies that were just, or the organizations that presented today. Justin?
Yeah.
Yes, I've been mulling this over, and with the addition of the proposed adding OAH council funding, I'm concerned as a state agency that this would be seen as not supporting our governor's budget. So I might need to take ODF&W off the letter if it includes reference to the OAH council position being planned reduction off our ODF&W budget.
So there would be two separate letters. That would be the previous letter that was on support for funding for all of those. We were not in that letter calling out specific positions or specific budget lines or anything, just broadly the need for properly funding all of those programs. And then, but this federal funding letter, I think, again, would be more about characterizing the overall cuts to federal funding and how that's likely to impact Oregon and all of our programs and agencies, not specific to any one thing, I don't think so. But that was my thinking.
That I think would work. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Justin. And to Karina's comment in the chat, that when Jamie said it was traumatizing, and Karina said she was sorry it was traumatizing. I agree it was traumatizing, but it was something we needed to know. So it's just dire. And that's, we need to know that. We need to be aware. We need to try and get that message out there. There was a lot that I did not know about that is very important work that needs to be done. So just my 2 cents. I can handle trauma. I can get over it. I think we all can. Okay.
Thanks.
I just need to wait. I want to make one more comment and then I do have to go. I'm sorry. I have to get my kids to their baseball games. But I saw Laurel's comment too about if 8 other agencies feel this way about commenting on budget items. OPAC has now sent several letters to the governor on both agency requested budgets and the governor's proposed budget. So if this is a thing, and maybe I'd look to Steve about, agencies are non-voting members of the council. I don't know how that is perceived. They weigh in here, they can give advice, but they're not voting on what we do. So I'm just trying to square that with all the work that the council does when we weigh in with the governor, because obviously the agencies work for the governor. So I'm
right.
I just want to be clear. Do we just need to remove agencies from our letterhead? I don't know if that makes sense. I want to be respectful and not put any agency staff in bad positions, but at the same time, this is always how OPAC has operated. So
yeah, I think it would be appropriate if it was talking about specific funding bills for positions that are represented or that are in agencies that are represented on the council, to take, the agencies off and just have it be from the voting members, listed on the letterhead. But, to the extent that they are, we're advising the governor on ocean resource management issues, it's within our purview to do that. So it just, I think it's an easy step to take to, have a kind of a prophylactic effect for the agencies so they don't run afoul of their strictures.
Right.
But we can still present that message as a unified body.
Tara, did
Yep.
that answer your question?
I think so. I also don't want the public to not be aware of who sits on OPAC, even as non-voting
Right.
members. So this is a very weird dynamic. I don't think, and maybe this is a longer discussion for another day, and we can talk as an exec committee with Steve and some of the agencies about this. The current letter that we are writing does not reference any specific positions. I don't think it does. It just says, broad funding for programs. But that said, I think previously we have been more specific about Marine Reserve funding and things. So let's maybe put a pin in this for today. It's late. But I think we should have a conversation about this and agree that if it's removing them, then I think we need to have a conversation about that, because I don't think the governor's office has ever received a letter only from the voting members, or however that would work.
So for now, I think we could craft a letter that could be Steve could review it, and we could, also talk with our state agencies to make sure, or reword it. We can, we're writers. We can do that. I think Tara's an expert at that kind of thing too. So, more so than I am. Okay. So we have a motion and a second for the letter before Tara has to leave. Is there any other discussion before we agree to consensus, or agree by consensus for the second letter based on the panel discussion we heard today? And I have to. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions or discussion. By consensus, thumbs up, say aye. Yes, second letter, okay. I'm not seeing any nays. Not seeing any nays. Okay. Okay, with that, I think that took care of the two main things we were thinking about. Other discussion. Andy, before we recap and go into the next meeting.
Well, I was actually going there directly, Susan. I put in the
Awesome.
chat that I'm looking at scheduling out OPAC for spring of 2026. Our fall meeting is already set for October 29th. 6 months from that is April 29th, and we have to have a meeting within 6 months of each other. So it seemed like the end of April was a good time this year for that meeting. If there are any known conflicts with that date range, please reach out, let me know. But otherwise, I will send around a calendar poll to try and get the spring OPAC meeting. And I can't believe 2026, but I guess that's where we are. So I'd love to get those on the calendar early so we can plan accordingly.
Okay. I don't see any, at least from my perspective, I don't see any conflicts right now. But yeah, please let Andy know. And we can work on getting that scheduled. There was also discussion about the governor's staff being here. Do we want to get into that now, or do we want to, I know Terry, you have to leave. We want to discuss that in October.
I think the executive committee could have a discussion with given they're on our executive committee, if we can just have that discussion, if the council's okay with us making it clear that we, expect and require them to be here, because it's important to have their input, and also important for them to hear these discussions. So I think that if that's okay, I don't think it needs a letter maybe at this point, but that's.
Okay. Is it OPAC? Are you guys, does that sound good to you? Is there any other discussion about that? Okay.
My dog approves.
Awesome to have dog approval. My cat would too. Okay, Andy, what else do we need to do before we can let everybody go? Because I know we're running a long time over.
I think we can adjourn. Thank you everyone for today.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Good discussion. I'm sorry for keeping you so long, but appreciate you guys hanging in there. And thank you to our panelists.
Thank you,
I'm
Susan.
fine
There's a
with
lot going on. We had a lot. We probably could have had a 2-day meeting, really.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Susan.
you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye, folks.